How's it going, everybody? I'm Carlos, one of your hosts of the Bring on the Blitz podcast. And you're wondering, wait a minute, this isn't Bring on the Blitz. This is In the Paint podcast. That's right. I am just here hanging out with Rios, who'll be your main co host. And of course, Mario. Guys, how's it going? Rios, what's up? What's happening, Dud?
We made it, guys. I still can't believe it snowed as much as it did. I don't know about you guys. I was snowed in. I couldn't leave.
Yeah. Mario, what's going on, brother?
Just hanging out, chilling. And same thing. It was funny. I ran out of table salt because I had to put it on my stairs just so they
Ooh.
wouldn't ice over.
Oh,
I'm glad I had it because if not, I would have been, stuck in the house just like Rios.
Yep.
yeah, like my driveway was full of snow. I couldn't, not have a 4x4, and I couldn't get out. I'm like, you know what? This is a sign I'm not supposed to go to work today. So I just called them, hey,
There we
guys,
go.
I'm not going to make it in today.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So, what this podcast is, Rios, y'all want to describe how what this podcast is going to be about?
So this is pretty similar to Bring on the Blitz. On that one we cover mainly the Texans. We do talk, a little bit NFL here and there. It's going to be a similar concept here. We're going to mainly talk about the Houston Rockets, and we're also going to talk about some of the other bigger things going on in the NBA as well. Yeah, you see, have a good time. Entertain you guys. You got some fun facts, and keep it going.
Mario, how long have you been watching Rockets and the NBA in general?
Oh my God. I remember my earliest memory is them winning the championship in 1995. And we were celebrating with some ice cream at my aunt's house. So that's how long I've been watching Rockets.
The same age group.
Yeah. So you can tell how
I've been watching since '91. Back when they were called Choke City from the Houston Chronicle. I remember reading that article as a kid in school. I'm like, Choke City. I took offense to it. I'm like, but then 2 years later, they ended up winning their first NBA championship, and then the following year, they went back to back.
There you go. Give me a fond memory of the '90s Rockets, '90s, maybe early 2000s. We'll start off with Mario.
For me, it's always gonna be Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal in the finals doing battle, and Hakeem just having his way with them, dream shaking left and right, just couldn't be stopped. Shaq, manhandled them as well. He's just a big guy. You cannot get around him. But in the end, Hakeem, even to this day, Shaq says Hakeem was his hardest opponent ever as a center. So that's so something that's kind of like a pride within the Houston community that he just continues to endure after all these years.
Yeah, because you saw Shaq was probably one of the most dominant centers in NBA history, but the one person he could not dominate was Hakeem. It was the opposite. Hakeem was the one that dominated.
Oh yeah,
on both sides of the court. Like Shaq would get his, but for the most part, Olajuwon was able to just that dream shake. It's one of those signature moves in the NBA, like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's skyhook. Just one of those moves you just can't stop. Or Jordan's fadeaway. There's just those moves you just can't stop. All you can do is just sit back and hope it doesn't go in.
Rios, give me a fond memory of you watching any NBA game or NBA games or just watching the Rockets in general.
Well, I have two. I mean, obviously the easy ones would be, them winning the championship, but I'm gonna go the series before when they were playing the San Antonio Spurs in '95.
Oh,
so Olajuwon won MVP in '94. They won the championship that year. The following year, it was a little bit of a down year. They were, struggling, and they traded for Clyde Drexler, and that turned their whole season around. It's kind of similar to how the Astros got Justin Verlander and turned their season around. Very similar situations. So David Robinson was having a career year, and he ends up winning MVP. So back then, they used to crown the MVPs during the conference finals. In this case, the Western Conference Finals. So game one's in San Antonio. Hakeem, having to watch David Robinson get his trophy. And I remember watching it, you could just see the anger in his face. And you just knew it was going to was going to take it personally. And he completely dominated. I mean, I haven't seen someone dominate an opponent like that in years. I mean, he's just made the MVP look like a rookie. Like he just could not keep up with him at all. Like, mind you, Hakeem is like in his mid-30s at this point, and he just looked like a rookie out there. And Dave Robinson could not stop him at all. And watching the documentary, they said the same thing. Like they were
Yeah.
basically like, hey, big man, that's a trophy. No, big one.
Yeah.
Exact words. And yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. Just watching it dominate different. Because again, San Antonio is one of our biggest rivals. They don't really have big
Yeah.
conference rivalries anymore like they used to back in the 90s. But back then, that was one of our big ones in the Southwest Conference. And watching him manhandle Robinson, that
Hey, Robinson mentioned in the press conference, he's like, he did a pretty good job.
yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job, but no, he did not, sir.
No.
And that's, even in NBA history, that's one of the most dominating playoff performances. Because he was averaging almost 40 points, double-digit rebounds, like 3 or 4 blocks. Like, he was just on a different level in that series.
Yeah, definitely. He playing out of his mind on that one.
So right now the Rockets are playing against the Cavs. It's a tie game, 107 to 107, 42.2 seconds on the clock in the fourth quarter. But obviously, we all know that could be another 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So
Definitely.
they've caught up because I think at the beginning of this episode they were like 99 to 10 to something. So now it's like they're pretty close. So tie game right now. Gentlemen, your thoughts, if y'all been watching, who's been a standout for you guys in the last few games?
So
Rip.
this is if you've been keeping up with the Rockets this year, or even if you know any of their fans, there's been a big debate about who is the team's centerpiece essentially. You have one side saying Jalen Green, the other side saying
Mhm.
Sengun. Now with Sengun, he's actually been able to put up very good stats. Like he's put up a very similar stat line to Joker in his to Nikolai Jokic in his early seasons, and they match up pretty similarly, numbers wise. Now Jalen Green, he was the first pick of the rebuild essentially after James Harden was traded. The Rockets had to rebuild. He was the number 2 pick behind Cade Cunningham in that 2021 draft. High aspirations, hasn't lived up to him for the most part. We've seen glimpses here and there. These
Yeah.
last few weeks, he has turned it up another level, and he's been the center of a lot of trade talks. But I think he's starting to quiet down some of those trade talk rumors. You see the Vegas odds; they used to be pretty high as far as so and so player going to the Rockets that plays his position. Those numbers have been steadily decreasing because I think he's finally starting to put it together. Guys like him that play the shooting guard position, sometimes it takes them a few years to put it all together because essentially they're the team's go-to scorer, and sometimes it takes them a little bit longer, especially a guy that didn't go to college. He went to the G League, but he's starting to put it together, and he's been very impressive. He's averaging, like I want to say around close to 27 points a game the last few weeks. Like he's really starting to become that go-to scorer that the team has desperately lacked. Because if you look at their offense, they're ranked number 13 right now, which they're very similar to the Texans, middle of the pack offense, defense. And it's the same thing here because they've lacked that go-to scorer. And I think if he can become that, and him and Sengun could be that 1-2 punch that they have in Sacramento with Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, this team has a legitimate chance to make the Western Conference Finals.
All right, Mario. What about you, dude? Who has been a standout to you, and how does it affect the Houston Rockets?
I'm going to piggyback on Rios. Jalen Green, for these past couple months, has been going off, playing out of his mind. Averaging over 20 points. And so he's really turned it around. I usually it takes about 2 to 3 years for them to really see a change in their game because they got to learn the system. They got to learn how to play in the NBA. It's just a different game from playing in college or the G League. You have G League players who don't make it in the NBA, but they're playing out of their mind in the G League. It's just a different offense, different speed. So that's why for me. And then Alfred Sengun, I think he just does it all. He does it all. He's all these little intangibles that you can't see in the stat line. And so for me, Sengun has just been the player that has been really keeping this team like the team. So he's been keeping this team on track. But again, Green has been playing out of his mind past couple of 10 games. So it's very hard to really pinpoint. But as long as those two are playing well, the Rockets are going to do well. So that's what we're hoping for. Later on down the season, whenever it comes down to clutch time, who wants it more? Those two can come in to save this team from disaster.
All right. So right now it looks like there's 4.5 seconds on it. There's still a tie game. Rockets have 2 timeouts left. Cavaliers have none. Overtime or no?
Well, I think I believe Cleveland's either in the bonus or it was a shooting foul, so they might go. It's basically going to be in the 10 minutes of free throws at this rate.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
But no, it's pretty impressive because of Cleveland. They've had their number the last couple of seasons. Well, Rockets were rebuilding, but this season especially because Cleveland is the number 2 seed in the East, and they've been playing very well. It's basically
number one.
Boston. They're number 1, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, they've been 1-2 with Boston the entire year. Like it's more likely going to be them and Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. So this is a good test for this young Rockets team. Because I think with young teams, you got to be battle tested. Because if you watch the NBA, you watch the Oklahoma City Thunder, they dominated the regular season. They get to the playoffs. They're not battle tested, and they flame out. So I think having tough contests against strong opponents is only going to make this team that much stronger, especially their second year under Coach Udoka. He's really transformed the culture of this team, but they have to get battle tested. That's the only way you get better in the NBA.
And at this point, didn't they go against the Bucks also, who are number 2 in that conference, by the way, right behind Cleveland.
Bucks have been up and down this season. You can't really pinpoint what's going on. Like sometimes, would they have the thing with Lillard? They said there was some conflict between Lillard and Giannis. So, but then they're playing the way they're playing. So sometimes you can't believe what the news outlet says, but we really don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, as long as you have a top 5 player, you're going to win games. I can see why some Rockets fans do want them to trade for a superstar player, because having an elite player, just changes the whole trajectory of your team and the outlook of your season. But I think with a team like this that's young, I think it's better for them to gel and see what they can become versus trying to trade for something that, sure, it's a known commodity, but you don't know how it's going to mesh with the rest of your team, and that can mess up the whole cohesion. And we've seen it multiple times where teams try to add superstars and it just blows up in their faces because they try to do it too soon.
They can follow the Boston formula, because that's kind of what Boston did with I forget their names.
Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah. So that's the same thing that they did with them. They kept them the whole time. There was always speculation about trades here and there, but look at them now. They won a championship. So the Rockets could take the same route. Hey, keep this team, let them gel, and reap the rewards later in the future. But right now, just let them play. Just keep letting them play, and we can. I think they're going to win. They could possibly well contend for a championship. I mean, they're number 2 in the West right now, so they're getting there. It's just we got to see it at the end in the playoffs and see how that plays out. When it comes to a 7-game series, you're playing the same team 7 times, well, possible 7 times. It's hard to really come up, be creative, and really elevate yourself. So that's going to see who stands out in those games.
Yeah, we're looking at the score right now. It's 109-107. Rockets are up by 2. 4.5 still remains on the clock in the fourth.
If someone says there's 2 minutes left, bank another 30 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be. We'll be here for another hour, and apparently it'll still be going.
No, but it's crazy. We were talking earlier about the earliest basketball memories. It's crazy how much the game has changed from what I've seen. I remember it being much slower paced. You see more of more like actual plays being called. It wasn't all this, jack up threes and try to get to the free throw line. It was actual plays being called. I remember playing in middle school and high school. Like we had plays we got to memorize, different formations and this and that. Like it was a whole lot that went into it. And now watching the game today, I don't really see that. I just see a bunch of dudes just jacking up threes and flopping and trying to get to the free throw line.
Yeah, the game has definitely changed, just like you were saying. But it used to be a half-court game. Now it's a full court, run. As long as you get to the, run to the 3-point, shoot. whoever makes the most threes going to win the game. That's basically what it is now. The skill set is a little different. Everyone mainly focusing on threes, and that's just not the shooting guard. That's all the way up to the center. So even the center now has to play outside and has to jack up three. Look at Nikola. I mean, he's just an anomaly.
Yeah,
But but everyone looks at him like, you know what? I could do the same thing. I'm a big guy, but in reality, you can't. There's something you can't work on. Sometimes you just got it or you don't.
Yeah, because I remember as a kid watching, if you're playing the five, which is the center position, you're basically your back is to the basket. You're posting up, trying to, make moves here and there to, get to the basket. Here, it's they're standing outside the paint. I'm like, it's almost positionless basketball at this point. Like back then, you could say a player's 5'4". You knew exactly what their role was, what their skill set was. Mm-hmm. Now it's, I'm okay with it being positionless. Like you see these guys that are, centers, bringing the ball up the court like Jokic or Giannis on occasion.
I think because of the way the game is going, we're probably going to see a lot more European players because they're more adjusted to that kind of style. You have 7-foot players playing on the outside, doing all the different stuff that you do usually we're not doing here. So the NBA is definitely transitioning toward a different style. Not full European, of course, but you can see a lot of more European players are starting to make a big difference now than a lot of the American players before. College basketball is still a different type of style. So, just adjusting to the NBA style
it takes
is a whole big deal for a lot. Yeah, it takes a lot of years for these players to get to know how to play at that speed and kind of catch up. So they're always playing catch up. They're never there. So that's kind of where you'll see a lot of disconnect from the younger players to the older players.
No, it's funny that you mentioned the European players. So if you talk to the younger generation, they call the 80s and 90s, those guys were plumbers. The two most dominant players today are built like plumbers with Luka and Jokic. These guys are the most athletic they've ever been. Like, yeah, we got the two guys that you wouldn't think could play basketball dominating the NBA. At the end of the day, it's not always about athleticism. It's about skill set. And we see it with those two. Because if you look at them, especially with Luka, this dude shows up out of shape every season and he'll drop 50 points on your favorite team. Like, it's crazy.
It looks like it's getting worse, too.
I wish I could do that.
Right?
I know, right? And earn $50 million.
I'm halfway there. I'm out of shape, but I won't show up. That's the difference.
Okay. The game looks like it's still tied. 107.
Yeah, it's 109. It's 109 to 107 right now. That's what I got. Oh, unless I'm behind.
Time is left on the clock.
It's been less than a minute for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, how many time that's going to have? How many team times?
Exaggerate. It's 2 minutes left. It's going to take 30 minutes. Unless it's a blowout. But in these close games, I mean, but this like a chess match. You counter what your opponent does. And at this point of the game, there's going to be the free throw game. Just get the rebound, foul real quick, and hopefully you hope your opponent misses a free throw.
Yeah, it looks like Dart. I don't know if I'm ahead or anything. It looks like Darius Garland just made, and then I think I'm ahead or behind. Well,
I see 108, 109.
Yeah, I see 108, 109.
I think that should be
game. That's game, I believe. Donovan Mitchell misses a shot.
Yeah, so it looks like the Cavaliers 109, 108.
There you go.
Looking at the stats, looks like Amen Thompson was really in there with
16 points, right? And 16 rebounds. Yeah,
he's one of those guys that have been very impressive to me. Like, if you look at all the advanced defensive metrics, he's up there with centers. Like, he's up there with guys like Wemby. Like, Wemby's probably gonna win Defensive Player of the Year, and he's as a 6'7", pretty skinny guy playing point guard. He's averaging double-digit rebounds. He's averaging 2 blocks a game. 2 blocks a game. Most centers aren't averaging 2 blocks a game right now. And you got a guy basically a point guard coming off the bench averaging 2 blocks a game. He's been very, very impressive. Like, I've been really impressed with his game because he brings stuff that you don't see on the stat sheet. Like, I pointed out stuff you see.
Definitely, yeah.
And just ask Tyler Hero how strong he is.
Yeah, and then further looking at the stats, we see Fred VanVleet went off for 26 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. He's really turned it around since
He had a
November. He's
really
doing much
explosive year.
better. So yeah, he's getting paid for what he's he's
Mike
getting paid that
Evans.
big money. He's finally
Little
showing
Mike
up,
Evans.
So
Little
that's
Mike
looking good.
Evans.
Oh, Mike Evans.
Yeah, he's little Mike Evans.
only on the contract year.
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like that's what it was. Looks like the Rockets do beat the Cavaliers 109 to 108. Not bad.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
the thing.
big win.
Like, it's a different guy leading the charge every night. Like, that formula works to an extent, but in the playoffs, you're gonna need that go-to guy. And like I said, it's gonna have to be either Sengun or Jalen Green that steps up into that go-to scorer role in crunch time. If you look at all the elite teams with elite players, they have the guy that he's getting the ball. Like you look at the Phoenix Suns, it's gonna be Devin Booker. You look at the Kings, it's gonna be De'Aaron Fox.
So it looks like the next game is on the 25th. I believe it's at Cleveland, correct?
Yeah, they play again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So the
this is
Rock.
going to be a big. This is kind of one of those
Yeah.
big tests, kind of those playoff game tests because you play them back to back. So they've seen you one time, they're going to see you again. How are they going to respond? How are you going to respond? To seeing the same opponent back to back like that. So it's just a big test tonight that they won, especially against Cleveland. They've been the number one in the East. Rockets number two in the West, but everyone's been on the Cavalier bandwagon all season. They've been a surprise team, so only next game's going to show how serious they really are because
You're playing in
this is
Cleveland.
this is the top team. Yeah.
And it looks like ESPN has them at 59.3. The Cavaliers over the Rockets.
Yeah, I mean, typically they favor the home teams unless it's, so they're playing a subpar team, but typically they favor the home teams. But it really depends on you got to look at the Vegas odds and see what the point differential is. If they're like a plus 20 or whatever, okay, it's probably gonna be a blowout. But I think it's gonna be a close game like this game was.
I'm looking at the game and looking at the stats. You know who I'm worried about? Brooks. Because he only had 4 points, 1 assist, 0 rebounds. He played 32 minutes. I was looking at the stats from the last game. He was not performing as well. So past couple games, he's been down on the stat sheet. Yeah, he could play. He does a lot of defensive things, but also he's their most efficient 3-point shooter. And if he's not, showing up on the stat sheet with more points, it can cost him down the line. So I'm a little worried about that. But also Jalen Green had only 10 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. We're discussing about him already going up and down. So this is one of those down games. Hopefully next game, he's really pushing it up there. But it's a real challenge. I mean, it's a real testament to the change that the Rockets have made over the years that they were able to win tonight. It's 1-point game, but of course they still won that game. So it's good to see that they are finally, probably showing sign of positive improvement and maybe, being a real contender here, either at the end of this year or next year.
Yeah, they're one of the few teams that play hard on both ends of the court. Because if you look at the defensive rankings, a lot of those teams that are in the top 5, they're not great scoring teams. Those are the teams that are a little bit lower in the efficiency rate. I think I want to say the Rockets are the highest as far as offensive efficiency in the top 5 for they're top 5 in defense. Because like I said, it comes down to the coach. He had to change the culture because these guys were not playing hard on both ends of the court. And he straight up said, "Hey, if you're not playing hard on defense, you're not going to play. Like, I don't care who you are. If you don't play on defense, you're not going to play." And we've seen him bench guys like Sengun and Jalen Green for their effort. So he doesn't care who you are. He's going to bench you. And which is, this team needs these younger guys. They need accountability. Because once you learn accountability, that you're like, hey, this is my job. I gotta step it up, or I'm not going to see the court.
Yeah, Udoka has been a breath of fresh air for the Rockets. Whenever they picked them up, I thought it was a good pickup. Of course, there's a lot of controversy with what was going on in Boston, but you know what? It's somebody else's, treasure, as they say.
Yeah,
so we were able to capitalize with that sign. I mean, the Rockets were able to capitalize on that signing, and you can really see the change now. Especially since he has a young team, he can actually run them a little harder than he would with the vets. Meaning to slow down a little bit. But this team can really fly up the court, so that's a big plus. You can see it, with the in their current standings, and I'm excited to see what they do. Because I haven't been excited for the Rockets in a while. I can be honest with that. Um,
That would be
because
most of
it's
the
just been
national
losing
media.
season after losing season. Yeah.
No, perfect example of this. A few weeks ago, Charles Barkley was on Inside the NBA saying this Rockets team doesn't know how to play basketball. Okay. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago, this team plays the right way. Their coach has them playing basketball the right way. Like they're gonna make some noise this year.
It always takes a while for the fire to catch on. So I think a lot of the NBA pundits are starting to see, that the Rockets team, they're a for real team, and they're starting to see them change and grow and become better. And it's again showing up every day in the court. They're winning big games like they did tonight, against the number one team, in the East and all the NBA actually. So, you know, um, they got to beat OKC. That's still one of the main team in the West. They did fall against them whenever it came to the NBA Cup, but again, this is something that they just can continue to build on with wins like this against top teams. You can see it, later down the line in the season.
That's it. Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, if you don't have anything else, that's going to be it for the week. Next time you see them, it'll be them too. I'm just here and hang out, talking with a little bit of Rockets. They showed me what it was like. That's what they did. All right, man. That's going to be it for y'all this week. Is there anything else y'all want to add on to it, or?
No, we'll catch you up on
Oh.
all the news from this week, new trade rumors because it's trade season. Got the All-Star break coming up, and that's typically
Oh
when
yeah.
the trade rumors start to ramp up. So we'll see what happens next week.
All right. All right, that's gonna be it. All right, guys. In the Paint podcast. On the next episode, y'all will see the new Twitter handle and the YouTube channel. All right, that's gonna be it. See y'all later. Peace.